The 14. Good morning, New York. It's 6:47 on this wet Wednesday morning. We're giving away another $101,000 prize at the top of the hour, but first, PJ O'Connell, what's in the news this morning?
Well, Crush, there's sad news for chocolate lovers this morning. Willy Wonka passed away yesterday.
Oh, that's too bad.
Yeah, the reclusive candy man died in his sleep following a long illness. He was 87.
Oh, man, you know, I heard that guy was loaded.
He sure was. It says here he leaves behind a chocolate and candy empire worth over $45 billion.
Oh, billion? Man, that's a heck of a lot of peanut butter cups.
Oh, Crush, you're too much. In other news...
whose eccentricities inspired a book and 2 major motion pictures, and was best known for creating the everlasting Gobstopper. Wonka's estate is expected to be fiercely challenged by members of the Golden Ticket 5, a group of adults who suffered severe trauma whilst touring Wonka's factory as children in 1971. In economic news... People always ask me about the gold and the golden tickets, and if it's true that it made the chocolate taste terrible. And it's true, it made it taste horrible. What they don't know is that it was also highly toxic. I had severe diarrhea for weeks afterwards, headaches, hysterical blindness, acne, back knee, some front and side knee. I actually found the last of the golden tickets that was sent out. At the time I was 12 years old, and I lived here with my mom and my Grandpa Joe, Grandma Josephine, Grandpa George, Grandma Georgina. They're all dead now, except Grandpa Joe. He's actually still alive. He's 114. And not really quite as active as he used to be. I was a paper boy back then, and I still am. I still deliver papers. It's not that day's paper, so people don't usually want it. But it breaks the ice, and then I can tell them about the factory and what happened to me back there. It's hard. You know, all these years I've just been trying to get what's rightly mine, which is an interest in the Wonka group. I had a verbal agreement with Bill, but the courts don't see it that way, and they're giving it all to his widow.
I don't know why, but the gold from the tickets on the chocolate did wonders for my complexion. It completely cleared up my acne. I met Willy Wonka when I was 13. He wasn't very nice to me back then. I think he thought I was some sort of spoiled brat or something. And I'm really not like that at all. I'm really very generous and kind and... Well, did you take the bloody bus? And sweet. I take pity on the less fortunate, the elderly and the infirmed. Which is why I married him. I loved him very much. I loved everything about him. I loved his cars, his plane, his yacht, his summer mansion, his winter mansion, his multi-seasonal all-purpose movable mansion.
There were all these rumors going around that when she was 18, she was sending him Polaroids of herself. And then I heard that she had seduced an Oompa Loompa to get into the factory. And then in 1983, I read that they were getting married. It's very odd because he was always the hardest on her. I remember once he scolded her because she said there was no such thing as a snozzberry. Although, as it turns out, there was no such thing as a snozzberry. And I really wish I'd known that before I bought 22 acres of snozzberry land in Florida.
I remember they had to roll me out of there into this room called the juicing room. And They had to squeeze out all this blueberry juice that had somehow built up inside me. They eventually got all the blueberry juice out, but the color never went away. I've always had an oral fixation. I started out liking gum a lot, and then cigarettes, and then nicotine gum, and then those chewable cigarettes. They had these things called everlasting gobstoppers. It was a candy that you suck on it, it never gets any smaller. I finished mine in an hour. That's when I knew I had a special talent. I've appeared in over 700 adult films, all of them for the blue fetish market. I starred in Blue College Co-eds, The Big Blue Bang, Black on Blue, Once You've Had Blue, Sapphic Sapphire, Violet's Blue Cocktail Blast. I'm very proud of my work. My last film, Busty Blue Sluts, Volume 57, won 17 Adult Video News Awards, and that's 16 more awards than my former best friend Cornelia Prince Medal ever won. All she ever won was some Nobel Prize for physics or something.
Well, this is it. This is the factory. Doesn't look like it does in the movies, does it? They don't tell you it's in Brooklyn, for one thing. The barbed wire is interesting. Little secret, most people think it's to keep out intruders. It's actually to keep Oompa Loompas in. Well, I haven't been back here in a while. Still looks about the same. Main gate. This is where I showed up the morning after my visit with Grandpa Joe and all our things, and my mom. We were supposed to move in. You know, it was funny, this Oompa Loompa came to the door. I didn't know him, he didn't know me. And I wasn't sure if I'd met him before. They all look alike, but I didn't want to seem like a racist. And I tried calling from down the street, but I didn't have any change, and you know, they didn't have cell phones then. I felt like a jerk calling the week later, and things got complicated, and I never moved in. Well, anyway, I'm gonna try to get in.
Call this a mochaccino? God, you're worse than my father. Oh, don't even get me started on that selfish bastard. He was always making things difficult for me. Sugar. And then he had to go and blow his brains out and leave me to pick up all the pieces. Well, not literally the pieces of his brain. That's what I hired Spencer for. It wasn't like in the movie, not at all. Gene Wilder was always singing and making up rhymes. In real life, he never sang. He coughed. But this Charlie said he had some sort of agreement with him. Honestly, the man had imprisoned dwarves make a flying elevator for him. He was a nutter. Mind you, he was perfectly sane when he married me. Perfectly, legally sane.
There are lingering questions about Mr. Wonka's competence. For example, some have said that he lived in a world of pure imagination. What most people don't realize is that that is a medical term.
I don't think there's any question of Bill's competence when we made the agreement. He brought me into the half room where everything was cut in half. Then he screamed at me. Then he hugged me. And then he promised me the factory, and then we went into the flying elevator. Does that sound like the behavior of a demented man?
This is from a TV show I produced called Make a Girl Cry. I put these 8 guys in a house with 1 girl. If one of these guys makes this girl cry, they get $500,000. If she develops an eating disorder, they get $1 million.
We do reality shows. It takes a lot of creativity and imagination and a huge amount of Did I already say creativity? You know me as the kid who got shrunk by going through that giant Wonkavision television camera. I love going through that camera. It was awesome. It was like going through a giant TV camera. Do you know what that's like?
What do you want?
Oh, yes. I'm Charles Bucket. I'm here with a documentary crew. I'd like someone to come down here and speak to us about why the Wonka Group will not give me what's mine. Can someone please come down here and speak to me about this? Anyone? Hello?
He was a very peculiar sort of man. For example, he used to love to walk through that big chocolate room, you know, where everything was edible, gummy bears growing on trees and all such bollocks. Well, one of his favorite things to do was to pick one of those cups off the trees and drink the candied tea, and then he'd eat the cup. Well, those were made of glass.
Why won't someone come down and speak to me? Veruca Salt is not his legal heir. He was her sugar daddy. I am the rightful owner of this factory. I'm the man who suddenly got everything he always wanted. Hello?
Charlie Bucket is nothing but a selfish bastard who thinks that I only loved William Wonka for the things that he bought me. But it was so much more than that. I loved him for the things that he promised to buy me later. When will I get those things? When?
She sold her gobstopper, okay? There were 4 gobstoppers given out. Augustus never got one. He was already in the emergency room, all right? Mine, I gave back to Bill. Violet amazingly finished hers in an hour. Mike's went missing for a few years. Then in 2003, the LAPD found it during their investigation of the Neverland Ranch. Veruca's was never found. Where is it? I'll tell you where it is. eBay. That's what Willy Wonka meant to her.
I was the first child eliminated from the factory. I fell into the chocolate river. Currently my weight is 1,400. I have not been out of bed since 1998. There is a lot of, how you say, discrimination against people of big size. I have sued many people and institutions for discriminating. I have successfully sued every major airline, American Air, British Air, Air France. I sued every movie theater in the United States and Europe. I also sued everyone for making me fat. I sued all the restaurants I have ever visited for encouraging me to eat there, and supermarkets. and farmers for growing the food, and I sued a wildlife preserve for not stopping me before I ate an alligator.
All right, okay. Listen, that's great news. Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. Okay, all right, bye. Well, I've just gotten some pretty good news, which is that the courts are willing to entertain my claim that I was promised the factory. I think this has a lot to do with the trouble Veruca's been having with the Amnesty International people and the government of Oompa Loompa. They've been trying to get their hooks into the Wonka group for a few years now. And I think now that the old man's dead, the floodgates are starting to open, which is good for me.
There's really never been anything in history to compare to what went on in this so-called factory. This Wonka kidnapped Oompa Loompa citizens under the premise of protecting them from snozwangers, vermicious canids, and then held them as a captive labor force. He forced them to wear a ridiculous hairstyle. He also deliberately stunted their growth with excessive amounts of sugar, resulting in an entire generation of dwarves. It's a historic case of human rights abuse. We are prepared to file a massive civil action. We are seeking prosecution and jail time. What? No, I can't stop doing that. It's a neurological disorder.
I feel very good because the settlements are getting bigger because I've gained some weight. My goal is to top 2,000 pounds because then I will weigh 1 ton and I can sue the makers of the scale that says 1 ton. It's very insulting.
Ultimately, it came down to us having to go see a judge and appear in this courthouse at 10 a.m. sharp.
We're not worried. We have a key piece of evidence that will prove absolutely and conclusively that my client is the only rightful heir to the Wonka fortune, and that her marriage to Mr. Wonka was legitimate. I intend to get my client everything she deserves.
Bloody well bet.
I've got Grandpa Joe with me. He'll be serving as my attorney. After we left the chocolate factory, I think it was a combination of the fizzy lifting drinks and the fact that he hadn't been out of bed in 20 years, but he suffered a massive stroke, which left him with a very rare form of paralysis. He's actually paralyzed from the ankles up, which that almost never happens. But he's doing his best, and I think we'll be okay.
I know we are going to win this case. I can feel it. We are finally going to get what we deserve. This is so exciting. Look at me. Look at me. I haven't done this for 20 years. I feel like a kid again. Like I've got a golden ticket. I've got a golden ticket. I've got a golden ticket. Get me my cane. I feel like dancing.
This is my newest show, and it's very exciting. It's based on what happened at the factory when I was a kid. I call it Fear Factory. We take 5 children, and we tell them they're going to be touring a candy factory. I want 4 kids who are like total brats, little, snot-nosed, selfish jerks. And then I want 1 kid who's nice and sweet and who has manners. They go into the spooky building with, I don't know, living coat racks and stuff. The owner is this singing, rhyming nutcase who swings a cane around, and there's all these frightening little midgets everywhere. They have to go on this scary boat ride. They see chickens getting their heads cut off. It's nuts.
She's ready for you all now.
And when she got up, she dropped the purse. And after she got all her stuff, I could see there was one thing that she missed, and it was her gobstopper. She still had her gobstopper from when she was 13 years old. And I knew that this was the crucial piece of evidence that they were going to use against me. And now I had it in my hand.
Then, one by one, all the bad kids start getting eliminated. One of them drowns in chocolate. Another one gets turned into a blueberry. Another one falls down a garbage chute. Finally, at the end, there's just the good kid left. And then that kid wins everything. The whole factory. But that's where the big twist comes in. It's all a hoax. The good kid doesn't get anything.
Excuse me, this is yours.
Take that. You're picking things out of my personal cherry bucket.
We let the bad kids inherit the factory and all the candy. And the good kid gets kicked in the ass, like all good kids do. Hey, what can I say? It's a reality show. Oh, and the best part, I've signed a major celebrity to be the host. That's right. Donald Trump is the new Willy Wonka.
Well, I guess I'm okay with the way things turned out. You know, in the end, Veruca got what she wanted. I don't know, maybe she meant something to the old man, or maybe he meant something to her. I don't know. I didn't have the... I'll tell you, I was real depressed there for a while. Then I remembered something Bill said to me. It's right after we got out of the flying elevator. And he turned to me and he said something in French or German or something. And then he played a little flute and rhymed. He was a pretty weird dude.
Okay.
Oh, wait, now hold on.
Do we have background?
Action.
My first film was Busty Blue Sluts Volume 1. Then my second film was Busty Blue Sluts Volume 2. Then my third film was Busty Blue Sluts Volume 3. And then my fourth film...
I have just come from a book tour and lawsuit tour of America. My book is called Get Fit mit Augustus. It is a complete exercise and nutrition guide for fitness and good health. And if you don't buy it because you think I'm fat, I will sue you.
Busty Blue Sluts Volume 12. And then my 13th film was Busty Blue Sluts Volume 13. And then my 14th film was Busty...
I'm working on a number of new shows. One is called Hanoi Hiltons. We take Paris and Nikki Hilton, send them to Vietnam, and they go upriver and retrace the journey of the American troops. It's kind of like Apocalypse Now, but with hot chicks.
I want to introduce you to someone. This is my baby, Peanut. Yes, baby. He's an Armenian palm hound. They're the smallest breed of dogs in the world. They're very hot right now. But you can take them anywhere because they fit right in your purse. But you have to be careful of fleas because the fleas eat them.
Volume 48. Then Busty Blue Sluts Volume 49. And then the producer ran out of ideas. So we took a week off. And then we made Busty Blue Sluts Volume 50. Then Busty Blue Sluts Volume 50.
So now there's another movie. I didn't authorize it. I'm not going to see a penny from it. The only good news is that I understand they've got Johnny Depp to be in it, who I always thought was an excellent choice to play me. He's playing who?